Okay, good morning everybody. Hi Chris, good morning. Welcome. Glad to have you on board. For our monthly webinar. We now have a few scheduled together now. We have, I think I've scheduled all for the rest of the year. So you can now book in till the rest of the year. And then our plan is to have it regularly. So ours is the third Monday of each month at 10 a.m. each Monday. Now, if you cannot make the webinar, we will be recording every webinar, and this webinar is being recorded as well, and you'll have access to all the webinars in the future. I'm hoping you can all hear me. If someone could just recognise that they can hear me. Just let me know in the chat side. Very good, thank you. Thank you, you can all hear me. Okay, awesome. Okay, so I'm just going to share with you a PowerPoint that we've got for today. So today's session is going to be about standards 4.1, 5.1 and 5.2. So you'll see I've got the continuous improvement cycle here, and this has come from the Q&C manual. So you'll see in the Q&C manual the continuous improvement cycle, and each month you are required to, as part of our policies and procedures, are required to review the standards on a monthly basis. And the reason why we do that is so that you are continually going through your standards and having a look at the policies and procedures. And what you should be doing with that is you have a look. So for this month, for example, is October 4.1, 5.1, 5.2. Before you have your monthly Q&C meeting, you should review those policies and procedures. And what you should have a look at is, do we follow these policies and procedures? If not, why not? Do we need to change the policies and procedures to suit what we are actually doing? Or do we actually need to implement these policies and procedures and actually put them into the process of what you're doing within your organisation? So that's the purpose of doing the monthly meetings and the continuous improvement cycle. So what we're planning on is every webinar that we're going to do, we thought this would work really well with our clients, is that the monthly webinar should be based around these standards. And so every month when we have the webinar, they'll go around the different standards, and we'll discuss them in preparation for your monthly Q&C meeting. So you might want to plan your Q&C meeting following this webinar. I might even change the webinar so that they're earlier on in the month, so that you can then plan it for the rest following the webinar. But as long as you don't have to set yourself that you must have your Q&C meeting on a certain date, and it's not set that you must follow these standards in this cycle, but it does help if you get to your October meeting, it might be a November meeting, but in October we'll review these standards and then you hold your meeting in November. But as long as you are continually going through the standards and the continuous improvement cycle and reviewing them, that's what's important, as long as you're doing that on a regular basis. The reason why I've put this policy and procedure into the manual is that you will review the policies and procedures and that you will review the standards. Under Standard 2.2, the standards actually stipulate that you need to ensure, or the CEO is responsible for ensuring that the RTO is following the standards, are compliant with the standards, and that they have a continuous improvement approach through reviewing their standards and reviewing how they are implementing against the standards, which is how we came up with the Q&C meeting, and that during the Q&C meeting you will review a couple of standards each meeting. Now the way I've put them together is I've actually clustered them logically, so that when you review them, they logically go together. 4.1, 5.1 and 5.2 is all about your marketing material and what you're providing to the student prior to course commencement. You'll see the next one, November, looks like a lot, but most of it is your, all standard 6 is complaints and appeals, and 7 is some of your finance documents that go with that, and they're really easy. They're things like public liability insurance and things like that, just checking that you've got it in place. So I've clustered them so that they logically go together, and that's how I've put it into the continuous improvement cycle. Okay, so let's move along. we're going to go through standards 4.1, 5.1 and 5.2, which is basically your marketing material. So standard 4 stipulates that if you have a look at the user guide provided by ASQA, in the user guide it actually gives you an outline of what the standards are, and under the standard 4 they actually say that you need to provide accurate information to learners about services and qualifications. So that's something that they've said within standard 4, which is basically your marketing material. Standard 5 is each learner is properly informed and protected. So you can see how standard 5 can go in with standard 4 because you're informing your students and the information that you're giving the students is coming in underneath what marketing material you're providing to the students before they commence with your organisation. Okay, standard 4.1. So I'm going to break down the standards and we're going to have a look at a couple of forms today. And I thought I'd also check out a couple of websites and just show you some things not to do on your website and what you should have on your website as well. So standard 4.1 is prior to course commencement or before the student enrolls into your course, you need to provide them with all the relevant information that gives them an informed decision prior to course commencement. There should be no surprises. You should be able to give them all the information that they would require to do this course before they start, so that when they commence, you're not going to give them a surprise. So some of the surprises that I've seen, and these things have come up at audit as well, where an RTO had decided at the day of the audit, we weren't told before the audit that the students will do a practical component at one location and a theory component at a different location. We only had one of the locations. We only had the theory component one, we didn't have the practical one. Now the problem is a student might make a decision to commence a course with you because the location that you have the course suits them. They can get there, they've worked out the travel arrangements, they've worked out, if they're going to be picked up or dropped off, or if they're catching a train, or if they need to drive there. They've worked out how to get there. If you then say 4 weeks down the track, now you're going to do this practical component, or even on the first week that they've started the course, we're now going to do this practical component in this different location, 2 suburbs away, that's not near a train station, that's not going to work with their travel arrangements. You haven't properly informed them prior to course commencement what are the requirements of this course. So you need to make sure that they know where they're going to be going, what the location is, how many days per week, how many hours. They need to know everything, and there should be no surprises when they start. And this could include fees. You can't add any additional fees. They should know what all the fees and costs will be prior to course commencement. Just think about if you were going to do a course, or if you were going to go somewhere and do something, you'd want to know everything before you got there so that you can make an informed decision about doing that. And that's what students have got to be able to do to get into your course. One of the things that I recommend is get someone else to look at your marketing material and get them to look at it from a perspective of, I'm thinking about doing this course, and ask them different questions that they might ask if they on your marketing material and what should be on your marketing material. I always find getting a third party in helps with getting feedback on what should be on your marketing material. So it should be really clear on your marketing material what are the rights and responsibilities of the student. So marketing material can include your course flyers, your website, your student handbook, an organisational profile, but it could also include your enrolment form. And on your enrolment form should have a lot of the rights and responsibilities. I'm going to break down into each of these different types of marketing material. So before any marketing material is distributed, the CEO should approve it. The reason why is the CEO is responsible for ensuring that the standards are adhered to. So in our policies and procedures manual, we actually have a process in there for authorisation of any marketing material. And the reason why we've got this in place is because if anybody gets in willy-nilly putting together marketing material and distributing it out there, and it's wrong, and it's non-compliant, and it could put your RTO at risk of being shut down, the CEO is responsible. So I strongly recommend you have the CEO or you have some other authorised officer. So we have CEO in the policies and procedures, but you can change it to someone else. and just have one person who is responsible for checking your marketing material and making sure that it's compliant. That way you can ensure that you've got control over what's being marketed and that it does comply with the marketing material requirements, and the requirements are standard 4.1, 5.2, 5.1 and 5.2. And I just thought while I was telling you that, that there is also in the documents that you have on Unicorn, there's actually a marketing checklist that you can use as well. And I just thought I'd try and bring that up. And I'm just going to show you my desktop again. Desktop. Oh, desktop. So here is a marketing material checklist. Now you can find this on Unicorn. So it actually has here what you should be looking for on your marketing material, and you actually check it off and sign it off and then file it somewhere. So you can actually go through this and check that your marketing material meets the requirements of the standards. And I've actually just put in each of these items here. These come direct from the standards, what you should have on your marketing material. So check this advertising marketing checklist that's on Unicorn. You can use that for checking that your marketing material is correct. And that's in the policies and procedures as well. So you can have a look at your policies and procedures, and that marketing checklist is included in that. Okay, I'll go back to the slides. Okay. Where are we up to? Okay. So your marketing material should include all the fees that are involved. This includes admin fees, material fees, excursion fees, reassessment fees. Any fee that you have with this course must be on your marketing material before it's distributed. Students should be able to know what every cost is going to be before they start. As I said, no surprises. They shouldn't turn up and then you go, okay, now you've got to buy a textbook. Now you've got to pay for this excursion. Now you've got to pay for this. You've got to make sure it's nice and clear before the student gets into the course, every fee that's going to be involved with that course. It should also include what are the payment terms. So in our policies and procedures, we have a standard procedure where you will not charge more than $1,500 prior to course commencement, and you will not take more than $1,500 increments. Now, there are different payment mechanisms that you can do, and this comes under Standard 7. There's some finance ones in under Standard 7, and how those payment fees should be and the refund policies. And I think it's also under Standard 5.3 and 5.4. They've got policies and procedures around that as well. But you should be really clear what the payment mechanism is and how often will they have to pay. Now, the reason why we've gone with the $1,500 is because you don't have to then have any fee protection measure in place, because that is your fee protection, that you won't take more than $1,500 prior to course commencement, and you won't take more than $1,500 in increments. It should be really clear on your marketing material what the deposit is and what the payment process is, and if they've got progress payments. Now, you can use something like a company called Easy Pay, where the student pays a deposit and then the money gets taken out of their bank account on a regular basis. So you could do weekly, fortnightly or monthly payments. That's a good system to use as well, and it protects the student's fees when they get into the course. But there's lots of different ways you can collect fees which will still protect the student but also ensure that you're getting the fees that you should be getting paid. It should also include, if there's a non-refundable deposit or admin fee, we recommend, can you have a hyperlink to schedule of fees? Okay, sorry, I just had a question. Can you have a hyperlink to a schedule of fees on the website? Yes, if you have it in your marketing material, there to go to the hyperlink, click on the hyperlink to go look at the schedule of fees. I would also recommend, because some students do not have access to the internet and you might need to ask them this, that you give them a copy of the schedule of fees with your marketing material, that you distribute that with the marketing material. You need to make sure that they get that information prior to course commencement, because you don't want them coming back and having a complaint about you didn't inform me of all my fees up front. So this is to protect yourself as well. Some of the things there's a guarantee that can be given by the RTO to complete. You cannot guarantee that students will finish the course. You can't guarantee that they're going to get an employment outcome. You can't guarantee, you can't say 80% of our students are employed following course completion. You can't do any guarantees like that. You need to ensure that your marketing materials do not guarantee that they'll get any outcomes. And the reason why is because a lot of students have come back and complained that you said in your marketing that you guarantee we'll get a job, and we didn't get a job, and then there's all sorts of legal issues with that. But the government's come back now and said, no, you can't put any guarantees in your marketing material anymore. The fees and charges for additional services. So if you're going to do a certificate reissue, we have the certificate reissue policy on the back of the enrolment form. And on the enrolment form, we actually state that a certificate reissue will be $85 per certificate. You can change that. That's totally up to you. The reason why we've gone with $85 is because that's what ASQA charges when they do their certificate reissues. So, so we've just gone in line with what they're doing. If you're doing a reassessment fee, so if they're deemed not yet competent and you're going to do a reassessment fee, that needs to be on your course flyer or your website on your marketing material prior to course commencement. So that means they weren't deemed competent at the end of the unit, and you need to reassess. Where this one's really important, most people don't charge a reassessment fee. Most people will do a reassessment for no cost, or they might have, our procedure is that they'll have three opportunities for assessment. So they'll have original assessment, reassessment, and a second reassessment, and then there will be charges after that, or they may not be suitable for that qualification or that unit, and there might be that you have to change a unit. Where this is really important is if you're doing courses like forklift driving or truck driving or something where it involves, it's quite expensive for you to go and do another reassessment. So you need to make it clear on your marketing material. So if you're doing a forklift course and the student was deemed not yet competent at the end of the course, you need to have it clear on your marketing material how much that reassessment fee will be if they want to come back and be reassessed. So it needs to be clear on your marketing material prior to course commencement what any reassessment fees will be. It should also be clear what your refund policy is and what are the conditions of refund. We've put it on the back of the enrolment form, and we've come up with a policy and procedure that's gone through many audits, and we haven't had any issues with it. And the main one is if the student withdraws within 3 business days of the course commencing, they within those 3 days they lose their deposit. If they are outside those 3 days, they just lose an admin fee, which is I normally do about $150, but you can make the admin fee whatever you like, and they get the remainder refunded. But if once they've commenced, they lose the full course fees because you've already allocated staff and materials and everything in place before the student starts. So that's what I have in place. It's up to you. You can change it, but you must change the back of the enrolment form, and you must change the policies and procedures within the Q&C manual and in the student handbook. So anything that you change with marketing is generally those 3 documents that you're going to have to change as well. So you must not guarantee the learner will successfully complete any course, can complete the training product in any manner that's not compliant with standards 1.1 and 1.2. So 1.1 and 1.2 is around your training and assessment strategies, and it's around your delivery time, duration, suitability for the course, entry requirements for the student, and then basically what's involved with your training package. So whatever's in the unit of competency or the qualification, you can't guarantee anything outside of that. So you can guarantee that they'll do these units and that they will be assessed against this performance criteria and that the delivery mode and things like that. So you can guarantee that sort of stuff. We'll obtain a particular employment outcome. So I said this before, you can't say you're definitely going to get a job in this area, in this. So for example, if you're doing aged care qualification, which is now individual support, I think is now the name of the qualification, you can't guarantee that they'll get a job in aged care facility. They could get a job in all sorts of different areas, but you wouldn't want to guarantee that they'll get a job because they may not get a job. Just because they do your course doesn't mean that they're guaranteed to get a job. Now, you might have a situation where you have employment outcomes. So you have an agreement in place with an aged care facility, for example, who have said that they will take on your students following completion of the course. Now, that's fine. You can put on your marketing material that you have this agreement in place, but you can't guarantee that they will get a job in that aged care facility. You just say, we have agreements in place with this blah, blah aged care facility who have stated that they will take on our students following course completion. And it might be a trial period that they work through or something like that, but you can't guarantee that they'll get a job there. Okay, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to post them in the chat forum on the left-hand side there. Sometimes I feel like I'm talking away and I'm sitting here by myself and no one's chatting to me. I've got Chris chatting to me, which is great. But if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to post them on the left-hand side. At the end of when I've gone through the slides and the PowerPoint, I will ask if you have any other questions as well, and that may not be to these standards as well. You might want to ask questions about something else. Okay, so your course flyer should include qualification code or unit code and title, a breakdown of the units, so that's for full qualification only, so you should have what units are you going to be delivering. We have a disclaimer on the course flyer that says you have the right to change these units, so the RTO has the right to change the units as need be, and the reason why we have that in there is because sometimes things happen and you do need to change your units, so we have that disclaimer in there to protect you. It's not really a requirement of the standards other than that you're not allowed to change them unless you have that disclaimer in there. So we've said that you can change it, but it should be clear what units they will be doing for this qualification. You should have all your course fees on there, the payment terms and conditions, reassessment fees, and the course flyer must comply with our policies and procedures as well. So I'm just going to show you our template for the course flyer and just go through that with you. Okay, so this is the course flyer template that we have on Unicorn, so you can access this on Unicorn. We have the template. We tend to put the course flyers together for you, but you can also modify this or do new courses on this template. Now you can change this course flyer any way you like. You can do whatever you want with it to change it have your own pictures on there, or you can put other content on there. There's lots of things that you can do to change this, but you should make sure that this core information stays. So you can change the format and the design or anything like that, but make sure that the content that we've got here is on your flyers. So you should include your duration, and that'll include, and this should come from your training and assessment strategy, and it must match your training and assessment strategy. I had a client who we registered last year. I came back a year later to do a systems check with them. They were changing and I discovered during the systems check that they'd changed all their marketing material to have new delivery modes and duration and things like that, but they hadn't changed their TAS and they hadn't updated their TAS. Now, the first thing, if you're going to change a course in any way, you should change the TAS first before the marketing material. So that your TAS, your training assessment strategy, is how you develop what you're going to be doing for your course and what you're going to have involved with the course, and then you should update your marketing material based on what you've developed in that course, in that training assessment strategy. So we've got in here the duration of the course, how you're going to deliver it. Is it full-time, part-time, flexible base? It needs to be clear to the student how they're going to be attending, like what is it, full-time mode, part-time mode, so the mode of delivery, how many days per week, how many hours, and you should also put the times in there as well. So what time they'll be expected to start and what time they'll be expected to finish. You should also include the location of where the training will be. So that should have the location of, it might be more than one. You might have a couple of facilities, as I said with that example earlier. It could be that they have you have a place for your theory and a place for your practical, but everywhere where that student's expected to go to complete this course, That should be under location. Every location, not just one location, it should be every location. You should be clear what the full course fee will be. As I said, we do an $150 administration fee that's non-refundable. You can change that as long as it's no more than $1,500. You can have more than $150 if you'd like. We think $150 is pretty reasonable. And as I said, that $150 is non-refundable. So if they withdraw from the course, they do not get that refunded. And we think that's enough to cover your costs, but it might be more. You might have more costs that you need to cover. Should be really clear what your payment plan is. This is an example that we have here. So $500, 50%, 25%, 25%. But if your course is $10,000, that's going to be more than $1,500 increments. So you need to work out what this payment plan is based on the increments that they should be paying, so that it's no more than $1,500 increments. So you might have 6 payment plans, or you might have 10 payment plans. So you might have, they have to pay in 10 installments. Any additional fees, so if they've got to do a police record check, or if you're requiring them to purchase a textbook, or if they've got to do an excursion or things like that, that should be under additional fees. So as I said, every fee should be clear prior to course commencement. If they're required to do work placement, where is the work placement? Do they have to find their own work placement? Will you help them find the work placement? What are the conditions of the work placement? That should be in there. Mode of assessment should be the types of assessments you're going to be doing. So it might be question and answer, it might be observations, third-party reports, things like that. And then what resources are you going to provide? So it might be textbooks, assessment tools, and whatever you're going to provide should be in there. We've been told now for initial registration that we can't put the NRT logo and the AQF logo on the marketing material, but that's where you would place those. If you're already an RTO, you should already have those in there. And then, of course, your logo would go in there. On the back, as I said, for full qualifications, you should make it clear what are all the units that the students will be required to complete in order to complete this qualification. This course description we get from the training package. So we just go to training.gov.au, look up the qualification, and we put the outline of the course that's provided by the training product. That makes it nice and easy. This selection criteria is what are you putting in there as entry requirements for the student to do this course. So it might be an age limit, it might be that a qualification that they must have beforehand, it might be they need a driver's license before they can do this course. And that should come from the selection criteria in your training and assessment strategy. We've tied this document, the course flyer, with your enrolment form and the student handbook to make sure that the student knows all the information that they require prior to course commencement. Okay, so that's your course flyer. Any questions around the course flyer? If you have any, just post a question. Okay, all right, so that's the information that should be on your course flyer. We've also got an organisational profile that you can use. I'm just going to show you what this one looks like as well. You can find this on also on Unicorn, so you can access this organisational profile. The purpose of the organisational profile is to provide you with additional information about your organisation. So you'll have this template, you'll need to edit it, there'll be information that you need to put in there, like who are the directors and what's your mission statement, and what do you want to do with your business and things like that. But we've given you a basic outline of some organisational profile, and it might be, so this page here is about different industry skills councils, so you delete the ones that are not applicable and you just keep the ones that are applicable for your RTO. You might, and what is your insurance details, any affiliations and partnerships that you may have, and who you are. And the whole purpose of the organisational profile is to provide people with more information about who you are and your organisation. Not just about the qualifications that you're delivering, but who you are, where your location is, what your facilities are, what you have in place, what partnerships you have in place. And it's a great marketing material for promoting your organisation. It's also one that I recommend that our clients complete first before their website, because this is where you can put all your content together and then give it to your web designer so that they can populate it onto your website. So it's a good document to work on to make sure that you have all the information about your organisation in one document. And it's also a really good tool for marketing to companies, or if you're applying for government funding. So, because government funding, they like to know a bit more about your organisation, or it might be a tendering for for a contract. This also helps with your tendering process because it provides a bit more information about who you are and what you do. Okay, so that's the organisational profile. The other marketing material that's really important is your enrolment form. Here. On the enrolment form, we have information needs to complete on the front, which meets the EVETMIS data requirements. So you'll see in the columns anything with a number next to it, that's EVETMIS data that's being collected. So that's on the front of the form. But on the back of the form is the terms and conditions of enrolment. So these terms and conditions of enrolment, they explain to the student what are their rights and responsibilities prior to course commencement. So all you need to provide the student prior to course commencement is a course flyer and the enrolment form, and they have enough information there to make an informed decision prior to course commencement. As long as you use our template and you keep the content as in the template, you'll be compliant. So we have the enrolment and selection criteria, course fees. So I've put in here that you won't take any more than $1,500 prior to course commencement. We've also put in what the refund policy is and what are the conditions of those refunds. We've put that there's an administration fee and that's non-refundable. Certificate reissue, sorry, I thought it was $85, it's $80. Certificate reissue fee is in there as well. So I've made it really clear in there what are the course fees and refunds policies. This is the fee protection, that you won't charge more than $1,500 prior to course commencement. Now, if you put something else in place, you might have put in that you have a tuition assurance scheme, then you need to change this fee protection policy on the back of your enrolment form to say that you have tuition assurance. So tuition assurance is like an insurance policy that you buy. The only place you can get it at the moment is through ACPEC, the Australian Council for Private Education and Training. You pay a fee to them, a yearly fee, and it's like an insurance policy that you can take all the fees up front then, but you have to ensure that you have this tuition insurance policy in place. And then if the student drops out, or if your RTO, something happens to your RTO, this insurance or tuition assurance will pay the student out. So that's something else you can put in place. If you look in the policy and procedure manual under the Q&C manual under standard 7.3, I've got information about tuition assurance in there. So you can go to there if you want to find out more about that. We recommend for initial registration, because it costs you money for tuition insurance, that you only do the $1,500 prior to course commencement, so to save you costs. You have to have a consumer guarantee in place, so that is that you'll guarantee that you'll provide the services outlined in your marketing material with due care and skill, that it's fit for the purpose, the specific purpose of the course that you are providing, and it will be provided within a reasonable time frame. So when is set in the training. Now that you can change your training time frame once they've commenced, but you need to complete it within a reasonable time frame. It's now a requirement under fair trading and under the standards that we have to comply with fair trading, and we have to have a cooling off period now. So the cooling off period is that the student has the right to 10 business days to withdraw. They still can lose their admin fee during that time, but they can withdraw from the course within that 10 business days unless they've already commenced the training. If they've enrolled and then commenced the training 3 days later, then that cooling off period is null and void within that 10-day period. So that's the cooling off period. We've also got information about complaints and appeals, if they want to do a credit transfer, what is the LNN, policy and procedure, support services. As I said, you can provide this enrolment form prior to course commencement, and they'll have enough information to make an informed decision prior to the course commencement. Okay, so that's your marketing material. Go back to the slide. Okay, websites. So more often than not, it's the websites that are going to have the non-compliances, and I see them quite a bit on websites where they have non-compliances on the website. And I'm going to show you some examples of what are non-compliances on websites do. But on your website, you should include information about each course that is offered. So what are the entry requirements, what are the prereqs, the course structure, delivery mode, the qualification code and title, or the unit code and title, a breakdown of those units, fees including any course fees, admin fees, so all the fees should be clear up front, payment terms and conditions and reassessment fees. Now what would be really simple is if you just put a page about the qualification and then you upload a copy of your course flyer that they can download as a PDF. That is the easiest way. If you put the course flyer up there, they'll be able to access it and that'll be compliant. So downloads are suitable, hyperlinks are suitable as well. So you could have on your website a download that they click on and they download the flyer and you just have a basic outline of the course on the website. Use of logos on websites and your marketing material. You've got to be really, really careful of the AQF logo and the NAT logo. There are really strict conditions around what you can use in your marketing material. So the AQF logo can only be used when marketing full qualifications. So that's a full certificate in something. They cannot be used on any marketing material for single units of competency. If you're just delivering a single unit, you cannot have that AQF logo on any of your marketing material for that. The NAT logo can be used for both the full qualification and the single units of competency, but you must have it on the same page as the unit code and title. Same with the qualification code and title. Neither can be used for non-accredited. So if you're doing any non-accredited training, you cannot use either of these logos on that marketing material. And it must be really clear on your non-accredited courses that it is a non-accredited course. So non-accredited courses are ones that aren't listed on training.gov.au. It might be a communication skills course that you're doing, or it might be a community course that you're doing. It might be something that you're adding on to your qualification as additional services that you're going to provide for the students. But it must be really clear that that's non-accredited training and that it mustn't have these logos on that material, and that includes on your website. It should not be used within the footer of your website. So I went searching for websites that had because I often come across websites that have the logos in the footer. So I'm giving you an example. This is just a couple of websites that I've pulled up that you're going to see. I've just randomly selected them. They're not in any particular order. So the problem with this website is not those logos. They've got these other logos on here, government funding programs. You need to be really careful. Like there's nothing that says in the standards, or there is actually, the standards say that you can only use logos with written permission from the company who owns those logos. So you have to get, if you're going to put all of these on your website, you need to get permission from those organizations to use those logos on your website. You cannot have them on there without permission. And you also need to check the requirements of the contract on whether you're allowed to put this on your website. So for each of these, so Skills for All, Vet Fee Help, I know Vet Fee Help you can, but I'm not sure about the other government funded ones. You need to actually check whether you're allowed to use those logos on your website. So you see this Smart and Skilled one, they haven't got the Smart and Skilled logo on there, and I'd say because the contract says they can't have it on their website. Okay, here is a big no-no. So this website here has the NRT logo sitting right in the middle there. It's not relating to a qualification. It's not there's no unit of competency there. It's saying increase your income by making your training government accredited. You cannot do this. You cannot have your NRT logo just sitting whack bang on your website, and it doesn't relate to anything. There's nothing there that says that this relates to a qualification or a unit or anything like that. So that's a big example of where you can't use the NRT logo. So they've got qualification. I was just trying to see if they've got anything else there that they shouldn't be doing. I was actually quite happy with the fact that it took me a while before I could find a couple of websites that were non-compliant. I have come across many websites that have been non-compliant. I don't even know what this company's marketing because I can't even see their course. It's not really clear what their course is. I don't know what they're doing here. Okay, so switch to another one. So this is another one, NRT logo, AQF logo, sitting in the middle there. You've got the qualification, so they've got the code and title there, but they haven't got the units. They haven't got the breakdown of the units. of what units they're going to be delivering. So you must include the units on here as well. If you're going to put the logos on the website, you must also have the units there. Now it's saying you can download a flyer. I'll have a look at the flyer. So they've got the NOT logo, you can use that there, that's fine. And they've got the AQF logo. They haven't advertised anything that is non-accredited on here from what I can see. So that's okay. So they can do that. They can have both those logos there. But on the website, you couldn't do that there because they didn't have all the units there. So they need to make it clear what all the units are as well. So that one would be non-compliant. Found another website. They have the NRT logo down the bottom here. They haven't got the full code and qualification. They haven't even got the proper names of the qualifications on here. So this is non-compliant. You cannot have the NRT logo there. You can't even do this. You can't even have a website that has qualifications where they're not using the proper code and title. So this is non-compliant as well. And let's see if we can have a look at the courses and see if they're non-compliant. Oh, they haven't got much. Oh, here we go. Okay, so once again, they haven't used the full qualification code and title. So you must have the full qualification code and title on each page. You can't just say certificate 3 and 4 in fitness. That's not it. You've got to have the full code of the qualification and the title of the qualification. So you can't, Cert 4 in business should be BSB 40115 or whatever the code is. The code should be there. You can't do that. I hope that helps you with marketing on the website. It really annoys me when I jump on the websites and I can see that people obviously have not even looked at what the standards require and that you must have and how you can use those logos. If you need us to check, you can use that advertising marketing checklist for your website, but you can also get your CLO to have a look at it. So just if you're not sure whether your website is compliant, get in contact with your CLO and they will check to make sure that the website includes all the right information on there. Okay, standards 5.1 and 5.2. These standards focus on how you will inform and protect the learners. This includes the information that you provide them prior to course commencement. Standard 5.1 and 5.2 ties in really well with 4.1 because 5.2 is how are you going to inform and protect the students, and 4.1 is how you're going to market that. So you need to make it clear prior to course commencement so that the students can make an informed decision before they come into the course. It should include information on the services that you are going to provide. So a lot of repeating of what was on 4.1 is in 5.1 and 5.2. And it should meet the requirements of 4.1. Okay, in the policies and procedures, we've actually done a table in there of where you'll put all the key information. So under standard 5.1 and 5.2, it stipulates that you must provide full course code and title, the venue length and mode of delivery, any third-party arrangements that you have in place, what are the entry requirements, what support services you'll have in place, what course fee information, all the course fee information, any payments and refunds, what are they, funding entitlements, so if you have government funding, what are the entitlements to the student and where you're going to have that, the consumer rights and the terms and conditions. So we've done this table so that you can see very clearly on your marketing material. It's also for the auditor as well when we're auditing, but this is where all this information should be. So your course flyer will have most of the information. Your website will have quite a bit of information. Your enrollment form has a lot of the conditions of enrollment. So it has a lot of 5.1 and 5.2 in it. So what are the requirements? So the support services you're going to provide, course information, additional fees, so that's your refund policy, reassessment fees, things like that. Consumer rights, the consumer guarantee, and the terms and conditions of enrollment. So you can see here quite clearly maps what all our marketing material that we've provided you, how we comply with those standards. So you should use this document if you're going to develop your own material to work out. So have a look at the policies and procedures under standard 5.1 and 5.2, and this is where you'll have a clear outline of what should be on your marketing material. So the RTO materials that you're going to use to provide the students to ensure that they had clear information prior to course commencement is that course flyer, enrollment form, student handbook, and the website. Additional information that should be on your course flyer that's not just meet the requirements of standard 4.1, which is marketing, is that full code and title of the training product. The location, the course fees, the estimated duration, skills and knowledge of the students, and what are the entry requirements for the student to do this course prior to course commencement. The modes of delivery and your RTO details, so what we've already discussed. The enrolment form, as I'd already discussed, has all that key information that the student needs to know to make an informed decision, but also explains to the student what are their rights and responsibilities prior to course commencement. As I've stated before, the enrolment form and the course flyer is basically all the student needs to make an informed decision. As long as you stick to our template, you will be compliant. So the enrolment form includes information about confirming that the RTO is responsible for compliance of the training and assessment. It also confirms that the RTO is responsible for issuing certificates. It details what the process is for complaints and appeals, and it also provides the students their rights. And if the RTO or third party closes or ceases to deliver the agreed services, that's in there as well. So that's all on the back of the enrolment form. Each student is required to complete an enrolment form, and they must sign it, and they must sign the front and the back. And on the back, the RTO must also sign this enrolment form. The enrolment agreement form is an agreement between the RTO and the student. It must be signed by both the RTO and the student because that forms the agreement between the two parties, and this is a standard 5.1 and 5.2 stipulates that you must have an agreement in place with the student, and that those two together, you both signing, is that agreement. Oh, and that's the end of the PowerPoint. Okay, do you have any questions about marketing or complying with those standards? Please post any questions that you may have on the chat forum on the left-hand side. If you don't have any questions about those standards, if you have any other question that you would like, we have 9 minutes to answer any questions that you may have. It's an open forum, away you go. If you have any questions that you might want to ask, go for it. Ask any questions that you might have now. Otherwise, I'll just keep talking. The other thing I can talk about is with your marketing material, at the start of last year, ASCA actually conducted a strategic review of websites because they were finding that's where most of the non-compliances were around websites and the marketing, what was on the websites. Now, the problem was with the marketing on the websites is the inappropriate use of the logos and not enough information was being provided to the students prior to course commencement. Now, we have a question. Is there a checklist available for certificates, statement of attainments available? There's not really a checklist, but if you use our template for the certificate, what we have on the certificate is everything that should be on your certificate. So I'm just going to pull up a certificate template now so we can have a look at that. I think I just updated it recently, and I'll just share that desktop with you. So this certificate template that we provide you in Unicorn, you can access this on Unicorn. All the information that we have on this certificate is what you must have on your certificate. Now you can change the certificate to any way you want to have the certificate. You can change the format in any way whatsoever, but you can't change the content. So you must have your logo, you must have your company information up the top, you must have your RTO ID, you must have your ACN and the ABN, must have student name, student number, which is normally, the student ID is normally generated within the database, the qualification code and title, certificate number. This information is what you must have in your new certificates. So you can change the template in any way whatsoever, but you can't change the certificates. Now Matt has a question. How can we meet standards with electronic fillable PDF enrolment forms or enrolment via website? So I'm saying, you know, if they need to sign it. Okay, so you can do an electronic signature. So the student can do an electronic signature. There's different ways you can do online enrolments where you can have a pop-up that comes up. I don't know whether I'll start with online enrollment. Let's see if we can find a good website. So you can have it so that you have it on, yeah, okay, here's one, good, I was lucky. Okay, so you can have it on online enrollment where they have everything that's on your enrollment form. So you must have everything that's on your enrollment form as data to be entered, you must have on your online enrollment form. And there should be, when you fill in all this information, you click on next, there should be terms and conditions that they must accept. So you can have that they must accept and a pop-up screen should come up, that they must accept this on terms and conditions, and that could be accepted as their signature, okay? And then your acceptance at the other end. So you could do something like that. I hope that answers your question, Matt. Any updates with certificate security? Okay, we'll go with that as well. Okay, so Matt's also asked, is there any updates to certificate security? They're currently doing a strategic review of certificates at the moment. Let's see if I can find that certificate again. One of the things that they're doing with the strategic review is they're doing a review to identify how can they protect certificates from fraudulent activity. And one of the big things that was coming up, we were doing a watermark on the back of the certificate. Now the problem is with the watermark, they're saying that can be photocopied and it's not sufficient to protect from fraudulent activity. We're recommending you buy a stamp and that you have a stamp that you can stamp onto your certificate that should go over. The best place to have the stamp is that somewhere it goes over the name of the person. So you should stamp it on the certificate so it goes over the name. So that way they can't white out the name because the stamp will demonstrate that it's been fraudulently whited out, in other words. The other thing you can do is you can have special paper so that the paper, you can tell if the paper's been photocopied. So that's a way you can do that. But yeah, no other updates at the moment, Matt. That's all we know so far. Chris had a question. What do we do about marketing the TAE qual? Do we know when the new package will be released? No, not at the moment. They still haven't released it. They were talking about releasing it this month. The new qualification is supposed to be coming out. So at the moment, you can legally still market your old TAE qual. So you can still do that, Chris. You don't need to worry about whether you're, because it's still not superseded. That qualification is not superseded. So you can still legally market that old qualification, the TAE. So that's not a problem. Don't know, it should be coming out this month. If you're preparing for releasing a new TAE under the new qualification for next year, you can't legally market it yet, but you can advise people that you will be upgrading, that it is coming. I would recommend that you hold off or you have a transition program. So you could actually state on your marketing that this is the qualification that you're marketing now, which is current on your scope. But if the students wish to transition across to the new qualification when they come out, that you will be offering that. Does that answer your question, Chris? I hope so. Any further questions? Yes, great, thanks. Any further questions anybody has? We've got 2 minutes left. Any question, you can have a question about anything. It doesn't have to be with these standards. As I said, we've just talked about certificates and things like that. I'm sure there must be burning questions out there that you need to ask. If not, we'll finish up. And also I will just go back to the slides. And we'll just go back to slide 1. So next month, we will be going through complaints and appeals policy and procedures. So standard 6 is all complaints and appeals. And as I said, 7.1, 7.2, 7.3 are really simple ones. So that's why I'm going to go through those as well, because they're pretty simple ones that we can go through. But standard 6 is all about complaints and appeals. Yay, because that's the fun one. Most RTOs do not get complaints and appeals, but you need to make sure you have a clear process in place for your complaints and appeals, which is because if you have a clear process in place, the complaints come to you instead of us. But I'll go through that when we go through the webinar for next month. And the next webinar is on Monday, the 16th of November is the next webinar. So I'd love to see you there. I'm just putting that in there, is the next webinar. I'd love to see you at the next webinar. Thank you very much for attending today. We only had 6 participants, but it was great having you come along. I look forward to catching up with you next month, where we'll be talking about complaints and appeals. Be prepared if you have any other questions that you would like to discuss at that next webinar. Please bring them along, because I'd love to answer your questions. These webinars are your opportunity to have one-on-one conversations with me and post those questions that you may have that you haven't been able to get assistance with, or you're not sure of, or you want to get it from an auditor's point of view. I can answer those questions for you. Thank you very much for attending this webinar today. I look forward to catching up with you next month. Bye.